Hey guys, welcome back to Insomniac's Dream. Today's video is for a Captain Marvel body paint and hopefully a fairly successful illusion of bringing her suit to life. For the eye makeup, it looked pretty simple to me, so I kind of just went for a neutral smoky eye with different warm brown tones. To do that, I started by laying down a color similar to my skin tone as a good blending base, and then went in with more of a taupe into my crease and to better define the eye shape. And then I just followed on my lid with some deeper browns, as well as kind of a rusty reddish brown right in the center, as well as carrying this underneath the eye. And then in my reference photo, it looked like she had a little bit of definition around her eyes, so I did a relatively small wing with some liquid liner. I also added a little bit of black to my upper and lower waterline with a pencil, and then moved on to the suit. You absolutely could just jump in with the paint here, but I often like to create kind of a sketch for myself to help lay out where all the different elements of the paint will be, as well as to help with symmetry. A lot of looks like this tend to be symmetrical, so this kind of helps me lay everything down ahead of time, and if I find stuff I don't like or make a mistake, I can readjust as I go. For this, I was just using NYX Jumbo Pencil in Milk, and then once that was done, I jumped over to laying down all of the base colors. For this, I was using Meiji Looks Body Paints and her primary pack, because it pretty much is just the primary colors, laying down the yellow, red, and blue in the areas that need it. I do personally like using yellow as a base for gold, because through the magic of brown, I promise it will turn into gold. And then I did just leave little sections on the arms free for now, since I know that will just kind of cause smudging as the paint goes on, so I left that for a little bit later. Because I did kind of want to figure out exactly where I was going to go with everything, I kind of started in the very center of the paint. So for this, I was taking a darker red body paint, this one's from Mehron, and started applying this down in the areas I wanted to add more definition. Creating shadows first that I could then follow with the black body paint to give definition to all the areas that have like stitch marks or along the edges, just to make a lot more depth. And then right along those black edges, I was able to go in with a yellow to be my highlight color. I like using yellow on red for highlight because it makes a much warmer highlight tone, as opposed to if you use white, you kind of just get pink. So if you're hoping to keep it in the warm spectrum, it's better to use yellow here. And then I just followed that with a little bit of a matte black eyeshadow and a fluffier brush, and just blended this into different areas to create more shadow. To start creating the gold and metal illusion in the yellow sections, I did just take a light and dark brown body paints. This is probably where having the reference image was most key, since it kind of let me see where the light would legitimately be hitting a three-dimensional object like this. The big things to note in the star are that you just want to make it clear where all the edges are, since it has a lot of protruding as well as recessed points. You want to just be able to define those edges nicely, and that's where the darker browns come in, as well as leaving sections where you want them to be very pushed forward, or as if they're catching light, you want to leave those as light as possible, whether the yellow itself or the white when we highlight later on. The side pieces then follow the same rule, but something to note on a straight edge is a little bit easier is that you can kind of move in almost zigzag sections. I often say you kind of make tornadoes with highlights and lowlights for metal, but essentially what that means is that you want to create defined areas for where the brown, yellow, and white will sit. Often on metal, when it reflects, you actually get very obvious separations of the colors, the highlights and lowlights, so you kind of just want to recreate that along all the metal pieces. If you guys are interested, I'd be happy to do another little tips and tricks video just on painting metal, since I think that'd be kind of fun. And then this detail, I admittedly just forgot while painting to do it, because in my reference there is a nice outline around the star, and I really liked it, so I decided to add it in after with some yellow. But I don't recommend this being your method, since painting yellow over the blue section was very difficult to actually make opaque. But it did remind me to go back and finish highlighting the star with some white in all the areas that I wanted to be just a little bit brighter. For the other red sections, because they are bigger, it's a little bit easier to see how blending the red out works. I laid down the darker red color first in small sections, and then taking a clean fluffy brush, I helped blend the color outward so that it would be softer and diffuse out into the lighter red. This allowed me to make those extra shadows, as well as kind of add edges to areas like the shoulder plates, and also make the lighter reds look more pushed forwards as if they're getting a natural highlight. I then used a black just to create a strong separation between the shoulder plate and the rest of the suit. And then I also filled in the yellow and blue that are underneath the arms. There's a little bit of a yellow section or gold section underneath the shoulder plate itself. And then I filled in the rest of the blue that I'd kind of avoided until now. To better define the blue sections, I did the same technique I kind of was doing with the red, except I was using a black. So for this, you want it to be almost a very light addition of black because you do want it to blend into the blue to make more of a navy blue as opposed to a stark black, because you still kind of need the black to do the lining. And that's what I followed along with afterward to do all of the little extra details on that section of her suit. For highlighting the blue, I was using Meiji Look's Yeti, which is her white color. And I was applying this with a larger brush and then blending it out further. Since it's a larger area that you're covering, it helps to kind of move up in brush sizes when you're trying to cover more surface area. It means you get a softer, easier blend, as well as getting more definition to a larger section and looking more natural. Well, as natural as a painted superhero suit can be, I guess. Then one of my fairly common final steps is to go back and highlight any areas that I think could use a little bit more pop, so to speak. And so again, just for this, on all of the red sections, I was using yellow, and then just white for the blue and yellow sections if I felt they need any more kick to them. Last step was one I actually almost forgot, which was to go back and add a little bit of black to some of the red sections since I had to the center and wanted to make it look a little bit more cohesive across the entire paint. And then for the wig, I sadly don't own a shorter blonde wig at all, so I kind of had to go with the one that I do have, which at least has kind of a natural blonde color. And then I just tried to pin it back in a way that kind of made it work for this, and hopefully it passes. But that was it for my Captain Marvel body paints. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I hope I'm getting a little bit better every time at clothing paint since they admittedly still terrify me. But I'm actually pretty thrilled with this one. So I would love to hear your comments down below. I really, really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch these videos. Thank you as always so much for watching, and I of course will see you next video. Bye guys!